What topics will we cover in Paradigm Shift? So first, we want to talk about AI capabilities. Where are they now? What happened with Claude 3.7? There was a big jump there. Where is this going? When will this AI revolution come to an end? How we should think about the abstraction of what we are doing now, how we should allocate work, what will happen if we don't want to use AI to code, and then we will just briefly talk about what this means for startups. Okay, AI capabilities. So we have a lot of benchmarking tools now that are doing various benchmarks, but these are the top two that I found that I like the most. Aider has 200 and something very challenging exercises, and you can see that in this case O3 high with some help of GPT 1.4 achieved 82.7% correct, which is amazing. So those results are super extra amazing. Below, if you look at the SVE bench, you can see that new Claude for Sonnet and Opus are even better than O3. So they have even better results than that. Benchmarks talk about the intelligence of the model, and I assure you the intelligence is no longer a problem. It was a problem maybe before, but now it is not. And this is the number one like pushback when I try and teach someone. People say it's not ready yet. So I assure you it is ready. You can go and try, do these 200 exercises and let me know how much you did. I would bet that you will be like in the same ballpark, maybe even lower than the LLMs. If you tried it before Claude 3.7 thinking, then you were probably disappointed. If you tried it later, then you were probably a little bit scared. Why? Well, you saw what's gonna happen. You could see some magical things happening. You could see like full features, end-to-end, back-end, front-end, database, deployment, migrations, everything. AI could think of everything and do it. After this model, there are no more intelligence issues. Intelligence issues are gone. There are other issues, we'll talk about them later, but intelligence is gone as an issue. Was this inevitable? Just quickly philosophical, like touching on this. We had we had exponential compute and growing exponentially. We have exponential data. And if you combine exponential compute with exponential data, it was just a matter of time. It was just a matter of time before we got to these models, and before we got to AI that can think on human level, at least in this domain. Where is this going? When will this stop? Well, we don't know if it will stop. We have this LLM power laws of scaling, and we see that the more compute we add, the more data we add, the more parameters we add, it just keeps getting better and better and better. We have not reached the end of it. We can see like it held up for 8 orders of magnitude. So this is going in a very, very good and crazy direction. The models we have now are amazing. We have strong indication that the models that are coming will be even more amazing, and that kind of blows my mind. But we are here. On the bottom chart, we see something extra nice. We see tokens are getting exponentially cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and now they're like commodity and very cheap. Absolutely, there is no excuse for you not to use an LLM or AI when coding. Now I want to talk about code abstraction. So we all know like what happens in our computers. We have small transistors, they have zeros and one, gates and so on. That's the lowest level. Above that is some form of machine language. Then we have like an assembler that gets compiled to machine and so on, machine language into zeros and ones. And the thing that we are used to working on, the code, like JavaScript, Python, and so on, it might get compiled to assembler or machine, it doesn't matter, but it all gets down to zeros and ones on the transistor. And we are used to the code, JavaScript, Python, whatever, pick your poison, we are used to writing code. What is starting to happen now is that we can write English as the ultimate level of abstraction. Maybe mind reading will be the last one. So this is probably second to last step. But we are at the point where we can type English which then gets compiled into code by an LLM, and then that code gets compiled into whatever. So we're not there yet. We don't have like full-on English compiler that I can explain like system end to end and that it can fully create an app. We are not there yet, but we are somewhere between. We can give it some small pieces of code or of requirements, and then it will do the code and so on. Again, the process itself changes. So we are used to like we do stuff alone, that's it. And then, ChatGPT 4.0 came or 3.5 came, we did it and we asked it some questions, but mostly we did stuff. Then 4.0 came and it could do stuff, but it needed a lot of fixing. It could do like small snippets and stuff like that. So there was a lot of fixing needed. And then we got 3.7 thinking happening. Let AI do everything. AI does everything, and we just review. So we review it, and it's mostly right. Now you kind of are almost in the last stage where AI does, and you kind of don't need to review it. You review it so much, and like you don't find any errors. If you do things right, we will explain how to do things right, and you review it a lot. I review it like 100 times, and I find one error, and then when things are like not like mission critical, I kind of don't review it. I just scan it, And so sometimes when it's like super mission critical, I review like character by character. Sometimes if I have like even some throwaway code and stuff like that, I don't even review it anymore. I just try it and I know there's like 99% of chance that it will work. This is work allocation. Once we have the task spec, we have good spec for the task, we know exactly what we are building. Like the process to get into that spec is similar to before, but now we have the spec, we can do the task. That process is much better and faster. So, before you had to do some thinking, you had to do research about, libraries and APIs and how you will, do all of that, so on. Then most of your time was just coding. You need to learn the syntax, make the code pretty, worry about low-level snippets, functions, and stuff like that. It was like, you need to be tidy. There is a lot of work involved into that. And then because you wrote the code yourself, you just review it very quickly. Maybe, you go to sleep and tomorrow you look at it again very quickly and review it. And then test and fix usually just some minor issues, You spend most of the time writing the code, you have a pretty strong feeling of what can go wrong, and you already kind of anticipated it and fixed it. And, let's say for that task, you would need a week, 40 hours. And now, let's say we have that same task, very nicely spec'd, and then we do it in 8 hours. So we spend like 2 hours, thinking high level, how do I present this to an LLM? Code 10% is also like giving it the right context and spec. I spent 15% reviewing the code just by reading it, and then almost half of the time of the whole budget is just like test, fix, research, iterate. Some things I didn't spec well or I didn't understand them well and so on, but I usually run the code with the debugger, I go through all the if-else's, I look at the variables with the values in them, and most of the time when there are issues, they were just like gaps in my spec. So we can kind of anticipate like on these very clearly spec tasks, like 5-to-1. I can anticipate 5-to-1 acceleration. What happens if we don't want to use AI to code? Well, if you don't want to use AI to code, I guarantee you that you will be obsolete very quickly. So there's like news, a few days ago, Microsoft released like 6,000 people, 2,000 people out of those 6,000 were software engineers. So they say it's not because of the AI improvement, but I'm very hesitant to believe that story. I think it is. And then a lot of people are trying to sugarcoat what's going to happen. I don't think we should be doing that. I think we should acknowledge that things will change. They will absolutely change. I have seen my productivity go up like 3, 4, 5, 10 times, even in some cases, when I have really good spec, that's the right size. If I still am thinking while I'm building it, maybe 2 times. But still, that's like take any take any job and tell them two times faster. There will be some ripples in that industry. So I like what Dario, the CEO of Anthropic, said. There will be jobs lost, and his prediction is like maybe half of entry-level jobs, and that people are currently now sugarcoating it, which I think they are, and we should be ready for that. How we will get ready is doing exactly this: learning, anticipating, and becoming superhumans through actual AI use, and then we are still competitive in the market. So if we don't learn how to use AI, we won't become next generation humans, and we will just become uncompetitive. Who will benefit the most? Well, my opinion is that the lean companies and organizations will benefit the most. Why? Because they will become even leaner. So, if we go 5-to-1 in man days for full spec work, which I believe is very reasonable, and it will become even more reasonable as we get, better LLMs. And then, if you need 5 people and then before, and now you need 1 person or even 0 persons, besides you, you can get management overhead like to 0. And I think people kind of don't look at the management overhead, right? I think it is huge. It's a tax on organization. So big companies have a lot of management overhead, meetings, things, argument, company politics, backstabbing, corporate hierarchy, hiring, firing, HR, team buildings, vacations, sick days, small talk. You have there's a lot of tax that you pay for running a big organization. If you shrink organization 5 times, you don't get 5 times more, fast or effective. You get 10 or 20 times more effective. So my prediction is that this will be steroids for smaller companies and startups and like small organizations. They will benefit the most. This especially applies if you're like a very small team and you can be your own product manager and architect of the system, then I think you will get the biggest boost possible.